The hills above Reggio Emilia, Italy, a little before 0200 hours, 27 March 1945. Major Roy Farran, alias Paddy McGinty, crouched down, scanning the German headquarters in the moonlight below. He was just about to signal the start of a major raid against the enemy. Major Farran wasn't supposed to be in the field, though. When men of his 3rd Squadron, 2nd SAS Regiment were parachuted into the area earlier that month, he was under strict orders to stay in the plane and fly back to base. Instead, Farran accidentally fell out of the aircraft. Conveniently, he just happened to be wearing a parachute. Background. By early 1945, Allied forces had made significant progress in Italy, pushing German forces northwards. The British 8th Army, advancing up the coastal plain of the Adriatic along with the US 5th Army, which was attacking through the central Apennine Mountains, managed to penetrate the Gothic Line and its formidable defences, but were unable to break into the Po Valley before winter set in. As Allied forces regrouped through the winter in preparation for Operation Grapeshot, the planned Allied spring offensive into the Po Valley, partisan groups and special forces operating behind enemy lines were activated. These included a Special Operations Executive Mission codenamed Envelope, led by Captain Michael Lees with its motley band of partisans and Russian ex-POWs, whose objective was to establish a base in the area between La Spezia and Bologna, on the western end of the Gothic Line, and to disrupt German forces as much as possible. So then, Major Farran entered the fray on March 6, and after landing, linked up with Envelope. More drops took place between March 6 and 10, bringing in with them some of the veterans of Operation Gallia, a previous SAS operation which had focused on the area slightly further to the southwest of Reggio Emilia. Farran now had 40 SAS soldiers from 3rd Squadron at his disposal. On March 19, 2 German defectors brought Envelope news of a major German headquarters, that of the 51st Mountain Corps, with its commander, General Friedrich Wilhelm Hauck, just 20 miles away in the hills at Albinea, above the town of Reggio Emilia. Farran and Lees made a plan to assault the HQ and submitted it to SOE and thence to Allied Army headquarters. Permission to attack came back, with the proviso that the timing be delayed a week in order to coincide with Operation Grapeshot. Spoiler alert, Major Farran would disobey this order too. Preparations. Farran and his men were shaping what would come to be a cohesive strike force out of the ragtag assortment of partisans and former POWs available to him. 140-odd Italians of mixed political affinities, and about 100 Russians, and of course the 40 or so men of 3 Squadron SAS. There were also a few women partisans used as couriers and intelligence gatherers. Adding to their disparate appearance, Farran noted, many had only one eye. Several lacked shoes, and all were armed to the teeth with knives, pistols, Tommy guns, and rifles. I was very shaken indeed by the appearance of the raw material, wrote Farran, after inspecting his new command. They resembled, he wrote, a picture of Wat Tyler's rebellion. Some of the partisans were veteran mountain fighters. However, most, according to Farran, were absolutely useless. The Russians were brave but unpredictable. Their commander was a former Red Army lieutenant who had escaped from a German POW camp. A big, blonde Russian from Smolensk with a charming smile and a great reputation as a partisan. He cut an extraordinary figure, clad in blue-peaked sailor's cap and German jackboots. Out of this odd assortment, Farran and Lees finally assembled around 100 men, consisting of 20 of Farran's own SAS commandos, the rest to be left behind with other partisans to secure the camp. 40 partisans plus Lees and his small personal bodyguard squad, nicknamed the Black Bats, and finally 40 of the Russian deserters. They would be vastly outnumbered, facing about 60 German guards at the two villas, and a quick reaction battalion of 300 men garrisoned a few hundred metres down the road. There was also an anti-aircraft unit stationed nearby of around 200 men, bringing the German forces stationed at the HQ to about 560 men all told. Major Farran named his mixed force Battaglioni Alliata, Allied Battalion, or less formally, Battaglioni Maginti. Farran was a firm believer in the cohesive power of a uniform, and so ordered berets along with woven badges with the SAS motto in Italian, Chi osa vince. In a crowning touch, he also asked headquarters to send a bagpiper from the Highland Light Infantry, David Kirkpatrick, who made his first parachute jump to join this disparate mob. Farran was hopeful that when the enemy heard bagpipes in the encounter to come, the peculiarly Scottish notes would persuade them they were being attacked by a regular Allied force and would not therefore inflict reprisals on the civilian community. The Major later admitted that he'd included a piper in order to, quote, stir the romantic Italian mind and to gratify my own vanity. A somewhat more practical 75mm howitzer was dropped at the same time. Prelude. Early on the morning of March 26, after a night march, the 100-strong Battaglione Alliata was safely ensconced in a farm shed at Casa del Lupo, 10 miles from Albinea. Farran sent 2 of his women partisans to reconnoitre the target. One of the women, a beautiful girl called Norris, he described as a tall raven-haired girl with Irish blue eyes, as brave and dangerous as a tigress and completely devoted to the British company. Norris was worth 10 male partisans. Both Norris and her companion later returned safely to report on the German headquarters. The next day, March 27, the raiding party emerged from the shed in the pre-dawn darkness and filed the remaining 10 miles over the mountains. Arriving in Albinea, the Russians cut off the road to the south, sighting their Bren guns down it ready to interdict the hundreds of Germans that would surely appear once the fighting started from the garrison about 400 yards away. Captain Lees commanded 2 assault teams, each consisting of 10 SAS commandos and 20 Italian partisans, and they now crept silently toward the villas. Major Farran and the rest of the raiding force would provide covering fire and send up a flare after 20 minutes to signal the order to withdraw. This British-Italian-Russian unit was preparing to assault a German force more than 5 times its size. However, Farran and Lees were counting on the element of surprise to turn the tide in their favour. The assault. A little after 0200 hours came a sudden crash of gunfire mixed with the uncanny wail of Kirkpatrick's bagpipes as he played Highland Laddie as an accompaniment to the assault. The sentries guarding the villas died first. The Villa Ross's front door was wide open, where an assortment of staff officers and men had been sleeping just moments earlier. One of the assault teams rushed inside, firing furiously. A siren on the roof sounded the alarm and lights began to come on throughout the house. About 30-odd Germans frantically fought back in the hallway and on the stairs, bullets ricocheting off the marble walls. After several minutes of ferocious fighting, the ground floor was taken. However, the enemy stubbornly continued to fight from the upper floors, firing automatic weapons and throwing grenades down the spiral staircase. 2 times the SAS troopers furiously charged up the stairs but were repulsed, losing 2 men. The remaining Germans then attempted to fight their way out, but instead were gunned down on the stairs. 2 men surrendered, but the Italians were in no mood for taking prisoners, and so they dealt with them. Farran's code for summary execution. After 20 minutes, with parts of the villa in flames, the raiders withdrew. Across the road at the Villa Calvi, another vicious battle was still raging. Finding the door locked, the attackers, led by Lees, attempted to smash the door down using a bazooka and Bren gun. But the bazooka jammed, so they dashed over and rammed the door down, tossing in several grenades for good measure before crashing inside. However, despite the fierce assault, the defenders fought back and another savage close-quarters battle began. After a short time, the Germans again retreated upstairs, leaving behind 8 dead, including the Chief of Staff himself. Oberst Georg Gartmeier, the Corps Commander, General Hauck, was not among the casualties, however. From the outside, the SAS and partisans, after repairing the bazooka, unleashed Bren gunfire and rockets into the upper floors. Furniture and fittings were dragged into piles in rooms downstairs and then lit on fire. Finally, the building burning furiously, the attackers withdrew. As the twin assaults progressed, German troops emerged from their barracks, rushing north in an attempt to relieve the besieged headquarters complex, only to meet the Russians blocking the road. Major Farran later praised them, writing that, quote, "The Russians returned fire very accurately and their ring was never broken during the attack." Regroup and retire. Dawn was beginning to break as Farran signalled with his flare gun, and Battaglioni Allieta regrouped before following their prearranged plan, whence they headed west and then south in a wide arc leading back to the rendezvous at Casa del Lupo. One of the 2 villas exploded as the raiding force was pulling out. Fueled by Benzodrine tablets and carrying their wounded on stretchers, the party made its way across country, buzzing with Germans, and back into the hills. They reached the rendezvous a day later, whence the Italians immediately threw a party, quote, "fried eggs, bread, and vino by the gallon." To the sound of the bagpipes, the SAS men gave the partisans a demonstration of the Eightsome Reel, a traditional Scottish dance, a performance Farran described as one of the greatest moments of the entire campaign. Aftermath. The raid had completely destroyed the German 51st Mountain Corps headquarters, killing and wounding around 60 Germans in the process, including several senior officers, most notably the Chief of Staff, Gartmeier. The effect of the raid on enemy morale was devastating. A combined force of British Special Forces and partisans had successfully infiltrated and destroyed a German base deep behind enemy lines. 3 SAS men were killed in action at Villa Rossi, and about 7 SAS and partisans were wounded. Among the wounded was Lees, who was eventually taken by a light airplane to a hospital in Florence. Despite the success of Operation Tombola, Farran and Lees narrowly avoided a court-martial. Farran was reprimanded by the 15th Army Group headquarters for launching a, quote, "premature attack disregarding orders," an accusation he cheerfully ignored. Throughout the spring, as the 15th Army Group's Operation Grapeshot Offensive progressed, Farran's mobile guerrilla battalion, now bolstered by several jeeps, engaged in numerous skirmishes with the retreating Germans, killing and wounding hundreds and causing the redeployment of vital reserves to the area. Legacy. Though overshadowed by other major events in the closing months of the war in Europe, Operation Tombola remains a significant example of unconventional warfare during World War II. The raid demonstrated the value of flexible, quick-strike tactics in undermining enemy capabilities, especially when coordinated with local resistance groups. Together, Major Farran and Captain Lees demonstrated exceptional leadership during the operation, cementing their reputations as 2 of the war's most daring and effective commanders. That's all for now. Hope you enjoyed this short documentary on the brave men and women who took part in Operation Tombola. See you next time.